Hello and welcome back to the Peak Season Podcast, the show where the door code always works. How's it going, Tyler?
Doing great, Luke. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
Oh, good, man. It is finally cold. I'm excited to be wearing my hoodie instead of my black t-shirt. We got some snow up in Michigan yesterday, so that was
That we
fun.
did. We did.
So we got to see some pictures of all the properties covered in snow. It's
Yeah, and
officially that season, and I'm excited for it.
a few of the ski resorts already started making snow too. I saw.
Even better.
Yeah. Super exciting. Good
Yeah.
for business here in northern Michigan.
Yes, 100%. I am excited. And it's nice because like we went straight from leaves to snow with no month of just bad weather and nastiness in between so far.
Yeah.
So I'll take that every year if we can get it.
Agreed.
Yep.
Well, today we're going to be kind of diving into co-hosting 101, we'll call it. So what is co-hosting? Why do some, hosts use co-hosting services? Why do others not? And just educate our listeners on what it is and what it's about and how it maybe can help you in your business. If you're struggling a bit, we'll break down all the myths and the facts about co-hosting.
Yep, sure. So I think the two biggest things that differentiate a co-host from a property manager, we have to kind of identify those first, and then we can start peeling back the layers of what a co-host does or can do and what we actually do. But the first thing is how the money flows to a co-host versus a property manager. So with the conventional property management method, all the money will go straight from Airbnb, Vrbo, direct booking to the property manager. And the property manager will pay all of their expenses, take their commission, pay their people, pay the cleaners, pay their handy people potentially, all of that. And then at the end of the month or whenever that, if there is anything left, it gets sent to the owner. And with the co-host method, it is very much the opposite. So the owner owns the listing, and we'll get further into that in just a second, but the owner gets the payout from Airbnb and then gets invoiced for co-host services at whatever rate that might be. And they will be invoiced for potentially if the co-host has to hire a handyman to do something, or if we're doing any sort of maintenance or anything like that, that'll be invoiced, and then the owner will then pay the co-host. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I think typically you'll find that the co-hosting method saves the owner money.
Yeah. Luke, let's talk a little bit about how does that interaction work? So I'm a host. I receive my money from my Airbnb booking. How do I pay you as the co-host? How does that work?
So on Airbnb, there's actually two different ways you could do it. You could actually set it up on Airbnb to where you could send a percentage of the revenue to the co-host directly at the time of the payout. And then the co-host could then just bill you for anything additional that would come up. It might just be supplies or a handyman or something like that the co-host paid, and then they had to then invoice you for. Or you could take your entire payout, depending on how you and the co-host agree to do it. You could take your entire payout and then get an invoice for it from the co-host and pay them directly at the end of the month. Vrbo does not work that way. You have to take the whole payout from Vrbo, and then you'd have to be invoiced and pay them. But on Airbnb, it's actually a little bit different.
Yeah. So, Luke, I think a lot of hosts hear about companies like Vacasa. Some of those, is Vacasa a property management company, or are they a co-hosting company?
The way I understand it is they're traditional property management. I've never used them. I've never even known anybody that used them, but I know that their listings are all over the internet and they seem to be not very good. And
this is an accurate statement.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm not sure exactly how their financials run. Do you know?
No, I really don't. To your point, I'm fairly certain it's more property management.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Where they take the funds first and divvy out and then give back to the host. If there is any.
Yeah, and that's a good segue. I'm sure that's how they're operating. They wouldn't operate another way. I can only imagine. But I think that's a good segue too into how the only reason we know what Vacasa is because we see these Vacasa listings on Airbnb or Vrbo or whatever. And And that just goes into the next segment, which is they own the listing.
Mm.
So as a property in the property management method, the property management company owns your listing, they own the reviews, they own everything about that process. And if you as an owner, if you were using a property manager, once you leave them, none of your reviews transfer. And given what most property managers are doing, I think that's probably a good thing. But if they
Yeah,
were
that's
doing
a
a good
great
job, you would
factor.
not be able to carry those forward.
Right. Yeah, I think
So
if
that is.
oh,
Go ahead. Sorry.
sorry. No, I was just gonna say, if the ratings are terrible and they have an average, your property is listed with property management company, let's say that it's averaging a 4.78 stars, well, it's probably better for you to kind of start over anyways, regardless of how many the reviews there are. But let's say you're at 4.98, which is pretty good, you're gonna lose all those. So it's a good call out, Luke. It's extremely important for us as co-hosts that we have a lot of skin in this game because we want our property owners to have very high reviews because that's a reflection on us and what we're offering our clients.
Yeah, I think typically with the property management method, they're all about volume. They want as many properties as they
Mhm.
can. They want to get as many bookings as they can. They'll price it low just to keep things going. Whereas we're more about, or most co-hosts are going to be about operating smaller amounts of properties more effectively,
Mhm.
um, and building better relationships with the owners and things like that. So just kind of to recap, the as a property owner that has enlisted the help of a co-host, their name is actually going to be on the Airbnb account and on the Vrbo account. So it would say right on Airbnb, this is Tyler's property, and it would show me as a co-host if I was co-hosting for you. And either one of us could get on there and message the guests or do whatever. But typically with the co-host model, you're going to be passive. You probably won't even have Airbnb on your phone. Ideally, we would just have your account set up to an email that you don't even check, so you're not getting all these Airbnb notifications constantly in your main email. And I would be driving the bus and communicating with all the guests, coordinating the cleanings, doing all of that.
Yeah, another good segue into talking through what are co-hosting services. So, what do co-hosts offer their clients? So, I'm an owner of a house. I kind of am tired of these late night messages or responding to guests, and I kind of want more hands off approach. What is it that a co-host service is going to offer me beyond just responding to emails or to Airbnb messages?
Yeah, so that's kind of the beauty of the co-host model to me is it could be everything from me just giving your listing credibility and helping you set it up and you pretty much handle it.
Mhm.
I could just basically be a consultant, or I could just handle your messaging, or
Mhm.
I could just handle your check-in, check-out, and coordinate with your cleaners. Whatever we wanted to find for that relationship could fit into that co-host model. But I think if you're asking me what I would provide for you, it's absolute full service property management. I'm going to make sure that I mean, everything except for saying that it's property management. I'm going to make
Right.
sure that your furnace filters are getting changed. I'm going to make sure your cabin's clean. I'm going to make sure it's inspected. We're going to do deep cleans. We're going to handle all the maintenance and, of course, coordinate those items with you if we need to take it down for maintenance for a certain amount of time or whatever that looks like, right? And we
Mhm.
actually have a relationship and a rapport where we're making sure that your property is really, really well taken care of, right? So not only are we taking care of the property, but we're going to make sure that the marketing is taken care of. We're going to handle your pricing. So it's going to be a full, complete package to where you are going to be hands off and know that we are taking a better care of your property than you are. And I always tell people that my goal is for when you get to your property, you don't have to work and you get to experience it like a guest.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's one of those things that it's part of the business. I know Luke and I both self-managed ours for quite some time, and it always kind of stinks when I have to go there and spend a couple days fixing things or putting things away. And it's like time I wanted to spend enjoying the area and the house that I purchased. Right. So it can be a pain point sometimes. I think that that's a huge advantage to co-hosting services is really the value of time that you get back. and spending that in other ways in which you wish to spend.
Absolutely. So I think our ideal client is somebody that perhaps bought a property and thought that they were going to get into hosting themselves. And a year or two into it, they're realizing that they don't have a passion for it. They understand how much work it is, and they know that every time they go to their property, it's work for them. And they're
Mm-hmm.
probably not making as much money as they can because they don't have a passion for it. They're
Mm-hmm.
not into the marketing and the pricing management and building out seasonal profiles and price labs and making sure that their bedrooms are optimized in the exact right way and just things like that, right? So when they bring somebody like us on, we're making 25, 30, 40% more than they ever could. And so they're getting not only more money in their pocket, even after they pay for a co-host, but they're getting a better overall experience from owning this property. And that's like the ideal relationship.
Yeah, I think some things that people should think about is this is an investment. So yes, there's passive parts of owning a vacation home, but there's also appreciation in this home. It's an investment, right? You're diversifying your investments. That's exactly why I got into this. I had all my eggs in some very small baskets. I looked at myself, and this was a true discussion I had with my wife, and I'm like, we've always made money when we sold our home. And the returns that I've made on most of my homes have always exceeded what I was ever going to get in an index fund or something of that nature. So it was just another avenue for me to diversify and generate wealth for ourselves and for hopefully my family.
Right. And I couldn't agree more. So I think there are owners that love managing their properties and they get really into it. And if that's not you, then a co-host might be right for you.
Mhm.
But you can still really take advantage of the investment side of this while paying a co-host, especially if you self-manage it first. So you're taking advantage of all of the first year tax deductions that come along with self-managing.
Mhm.
So I know a lot of people, they want to buy a property in the fall. They want to self-manage it until January so they can take care of all those deductions and get all the incentives and everything for buying this property, which maybe we'll get into in a future podcast. And
Mm.
then in January, they're turning over to a co-host to where it becomes more passive for them.
Mhm.
And that's a really cool model to use for somebody who is not really into this game.
Yeah, fair point. I think another client that I am excited to always discuss and talk through things are clients that are newer to this. So maybe they haven't even operated a year, but it's not that it's exciting. It's just maybe they're struggling. They've got maybe a handful of bookings over the last few months. Nothing's really going well for them, right? And a lot of that can be truly due to maybe a lack of education or understanding of how to set this up successfully. Offering those discounts right at the beginning, getting to what we said in one of our previous podcasts, getting people in the door and getting them to leave reviews, right? Because that's a big part of that algorithm. So helping them, Luke, I know we're going to have a podcast, here in the future where you talk about some case studies and what you've been able to do with other clients before, but being able to take somebody who was maybe grossing 40K and is now grossing, double that, like that's exciting. That's super exciting and super positive, and it just drives us to want to keep continuing to do better and be better.
Yeah, 100%. Neither of us are, of course, in this on a volunteer basis. We want to make money, but we also both have jobs and we don't necessarily need the money. This is investment for us. This is a passion for us. It's something we do that's extra. So I would never want to be in a relationship where I started working with a client and they bring in less money than before I started.
Hmm.
Right. So I would not take on a co-host client that I'm not going to be able to make them more money than had I never been enlisted.
Right.
So, and I would recommend them. I would advise for them to go down a different route. If once we started talking, once we got into looking at their property and everything, if I didn't think there was enough meat on the bone for me to push them to a
Mhm.
extremely high level, then I would recommend them doing something different, or maybe I'd try and help them through consulting or revenue management or something like that. but I would never want to be in a position where I am their co-host if they're not going to make more money and have a better experience for the whole thing.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I think that there are other avenues, and we've talked to other clients or potential clients where we're like, maybe they're too far out of the scope of where we want to be, but there's other avenues in which we can help, or another co-hosting company can help, and that could be revenue management, or it could be marketing, helping get those emails, helping build out their brand awareness and build out their website because they don't have a direct booking website, things of that nature. So what's nice about what we can offer here at Upstream Vacations as well as others is maybe, maybe it's not full on co-hosting. Maybe it's just a small piece of this to tweak and help you move the needle more than where you're at, but maybe not full on where we are thinking we're gonna be able to generate, you know, 20, 40, $50,000 more a year in revenue for you.
Right. So moving further into that, let's talk about like how sort of like the day-to-day life with a co-host works. Like we're handling guest messaging, check-in, check-out, the cleaner management, things of that nature. Like um, in our specific business, um, we're also handling inventory of paper towels, laundry soap, things like that. And the way we do that is we bake it all into a cleaning fee, and we just figure out based on the size of the house what that looks like, and that's something that owners don't have to take care of, which is a huge headache for an owner to actually make sure that stuff is stocked and taken care of constantly. um, Tyler, I mean, how many hours a month do you think that would save you if somebody was taking care of that for you?
I mean, that would still be several hours a month. So I think that that's huge. And I think another thing that we offer that is what I think is even more time saving in a lot of ways is the maintenance checklist, making
Hmm.
sure light bulbs get changed, making sure I got a generator that it gets a yearly inspection, that I'm replacing the smoke detector batteries annually. Every season, something's different happens. So before summer, we're making sure kayaks are out. We're making sure everything's ready to go for those summer guests because you're charging a premium during that time, right? And on the back end, before winter hits, because like Luke said, we went from fall colors to snow in like a day. Making sure you're ahead of the schedule, and we can't predict the weather per se, but I went to my property a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago and took out the kayaks and put everything down. And in addition to that, adding that to my messaging so I'm not surprising guests. Not that a guest is probably going to want to go kayak in Lake Michigan right now, but I don't want them to be surprised that it's not there. Right. So I put in my outdoor area of my guidebook, I'm like from beginning of May through mid October. Right. Because I know that I'm going to be there and I'm going to get that done. But those small things, it sounds very small, they add up because you really don't want a guest showing up hoping that they were going to go kayak and everything's put away.
Right. And I think one of the advantages of having a local co-host as opposed to like a national property manager or something like that is we are actually going to be there at your property to handle things like this. Or maybe we're going to hire a handyman for the day and we're going to have him go to every single property in our portfolio and take care of our punch list for going from summer to fall, fall to winter, things like that.
Mhm.
And we're going to make sure all that's done. So it's not something that is going to be in the back of the owner's mind as the seasons change. They need to get up to the property and take care of this. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So I think there's a lot of value in that, and it just goes back to allowing our owners to feel like guests in their property and to enjoy their property. Right.
Yeah, and I think when we think about kind of what we've talked about, and as we wrap up, Luke, what do you think are some of the important questions that an owner uh, should be asking themselves and determining whether maybe co-hosting is the right move, or maybe a smaller, not as much co-hosting, maybe more revenue management, something like that.
Yeah. I think it's important, like, for all of us to kind of operate in our zone of genius and to do things that make us happy and to make sure that you're always going to be best at doing things that you're good at. For instance, I work with a client right now. I run their price labs for them. They pay me a small fee every month. I take care of their pricing, and I'm always available to get on the phone if they need any help with optimizing their listing, things like that. So we're chatting once or twice a week usually via text about what kind of bookings they're getting and things like that. But they really, really enjoy running their property, communicating with guests. They love their property and they love sharing it with people, and they run it like a business and they do a really, really good job at it. So I was able to take something that was a point of stress for them, take it off their plate, give them somebody that they can sort of lean on when they need help, but they are still running their property and they're staying in their zone of genius. So I
Right.
think if there's a portion of this that you love, then you should keep that, and maybe you should outsource the rest of it. And if you love all of it, then go all in and be the best manager you can possibly be. But if there's something that you absolutely dread about running a short-term rental, whether that is communicating with guests or running dynamic pricing or building out automations, there's somebody out there that can take that off your plate, and your business will do better because of it. Because I think if there's one thing that's for sure, it's if there's a portion of your business that you hate, that will drag you down.
Yeah. That's a great point. I was thinking about that. I've spoke with other hosts and they're like, I hate talking with guests. I fear like it's almost too like fear the unknown. Like the guest is coming and they're freaked out and they're like, are they gonna tear my place apart? And
Right.
it's like if you're not able to sleep at night and these things worry you, maybe it's time to think about how co-hosting service can take over and you put your mind at ease. Don't get rid of this property because this property is truly an investment, but rather think of outsourcing certain parts that are going to allow you to enjoy it and continue to add value and wealth for you down the line.
Right. And I think we're all pretty much doing at least a portion of that. Like 99.9% of short-term rental owners don't clean their own cabin.
Right.
So you outsource your cleaning, right?
Mhm.
So do some people outsource maintenance? Sure. Some people like every time I go to any property that I own or manage, I have my backpack with my camera, my drone, several lenses, all that stuff, because I enjoy taking pictures of my property, and I still hire photographers to come in and do the brunt of
Sure.
it, but I don't want to be there and be like, oh, look at this amazing sunset, or the snow fell just right, and not be able to get those amazing pictures that I can put on Airbnb and share. So, but that's something that I enjoy.
Right.
And if you're not
You
somebody that can enjoy that, then you should try and offload it to somebody who is going to take it and run with it.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Well, Luke, I think those are the big things, right, that we wanted to cover today is just, if you recognize any, you know, pain points or, you're self-reflecting on what you're comfortable and confident in doing and owning or managing, it's just really a great opportunity to self-reflect, own whether or not you feel you are successful or whether you could be more successful in a more hands-off approach. I think those are the key things because again, we want you to be successful. We want you to be able to continue to grow and maybe even add more properties to your portfolio down the road.
Yeah, that's a really good point as we close it out here. If you want to grow and scale in this business, maybe offloading a portion of that management is going to allow you to have the mental availability to get to that next property. So it might actually be extremely beneficial to offload some of that workload. Yeah, cool. Well, as always, if you got any value out of this, we would absolutely love a 5-star review from you. You can check Tyler and I out on upstreamvacations.com. And Tyler, you got anything else?
No, we'll catch you in the peak season.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.